بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Welcome everybody to the Safina Society Nothing But Facts live stream on a very warm, and I would say more on the warm side, Thursday before my trip to Turkey, inshallah ta'ala, which will be, that trip to Turkey is going to be tomorrow night, and I love flying out in the evenings. There's nothing nicer, nothing worse than flying out in the mornings. And you thought you saved yourself some money by taking a morning flight and earning or winning over the day where you're going, but you end up waking up at 3:30, getting in the car at 4:30, being miserable at 5:30, being even more miserable online at 6 o'clock, and you're miserable all day. There's no gain from that. So the best time to fly, in my personal opinion, is in the afternoon, evening. You go to the airport fresh, right? Being miserable, no rushing at weird times. You maybe take a nap, maybe not on the plane, and then you come down like a normal person, not like some crazed person at 3:30 a.m. You're waking up and messing your whole cycle up. Let us read about something from Hanbali fiqh. Okay. Hanbali fiqh. What are we reading in the Hanbali school? And do we read from Hanbali fiqh? Of course, why not? Because as long as we're just reading and not giving our own commentary, because I'm not a Hanbali, I wouldn't know any better. But I'm reading right now from Hanbali Disciples on Telegram. It's also a website written by John Starling. And he's a sheikh of the Hanbali school. And I'm very pleased to announce that he will be teaching Hanbali Aqeeda books at Arkview next September. That's like a major announcement. That's like really great news. And I figured, we're already heading into August. Fall term is only about 6 weeks away or 7 weeks away. So we need to start dripping this information out to people, and we'll advertise it heavily, and we'll have Imam and Sheikh John Starling on the stream. And he's from Jersey, and he'll be teaching probably Qala'idul Aqyan at arkview.org, and that is a Hanbali Aqeeda book. And I know that some people say there is no Hanbali school, there's only an Athari school, but in this case, you can say it's Hanbali Aqeeda because those authors are Hanbalis, and that's what the chain of transmission in Egypt of Hanabila, this is what they teach. So let's now read this. He says here, or this question here, let me pull this up, is about foster children. And when you have a foster child, can you see them without hijab? Let's say there's a girl who was put into foster care, or a boy who was put into foster care, and instead of them going into a non-Muslim's home, you want to do a good deed, you become a registered foster parent, and you take those kids in. So the answer to this question is that foster kids tend to be on the older side, past 2 years old. 2 years old is the cutoff for something that is known as being a milk child. Being a milk child essentially entails that someone fed you some milk from a breast milk, whether from a bottle or directly nursed. When that happens, that mother, the owner of that milk, or whoever's that milk was, it now renders that child their milk child. And therefore, all the relationships are affected by that. As the mahram rules take place. So her husband, that woman's husband, becomes like the stepfather of that child. Her children become milk siblings of that child. All of the rules of a regular child take place except for inheritance. And even inheritance actually can take place practically by giving them their share of from the bequest. You're allowed to take 1/3, maximum 1/3, and give it as list it as a bequest to that milk child. Let's take an example. You got man and woman, they want to do a good deed, and they want to adopt a child from Gaza, let's say. So what's she going to do? Her or her sister or the husband's sister will save some breast milk. Freeze it. Let's say the adoption paperwork goes through. Now we're talking about adoption, not just foster. When we say adoption, Shar'i adoption, it means the only thing that separates it from secular term for adoption is that you're not telling the child, I'm your dad. You have to tell them that you have a different father and mother, and if you know the identity, you must tell them. It's their right to tell them that. And they come at age of 18, oh, I discovered while I was cleaning out the attic that I'm adopted, right? And then the kid has a mental shock and a trauma. That's not allowed in Islam. You are lying. Lying is not allowed in Islam. So in this adoption, that let's say the husband has milk from his sister. So any child that drinks from that milk will become his niece. Therefore, they should adopt a girl. It'll be his niece. Problem with that, though, is that if he has boys, his niece and his sons, his milk niece and his sons, they can marry. So it didn't even really work out well. But let's say they don't have kids. Let's say they can't have kids. In that case, there's no issue. So he now has a milk niece, and that milk niece can live with him. No hijab rules apply. Just like a daughter. Okay? Just like his real niece. Okay? But if they do have boys, then that's an issue. Now let's say his wife can produce milk. That solves all the problems. You freeze some of that milk, and then the condition is before or around the age of 2. That's the condition. Before or around the age of 2, that child has to take in some milk. Different madhabs have different opinions on how much, but it's really irrelevant because finish a bottle will do the trick. But the very least is 1 gulp. So if she has her milk, they can therefore adopt a girl. Okay? Or a boy. And that girl and boy will be their milk child. And will be, if they do have children, obviously, if they do have children, then they would be milk siblings with that child. Now, how could she have milk if she doesn't have children? You can artificially do it. I don't know if that's good or bad for you, but a woman can artificially make herself lactate. Arkview is without a C. Oh, you have it right. No, you're good. I thought that was a C. You can artificially lactate. I don't know the science behind it, but I did ask, and the answer is yes. It maybe mess up hormones or what have you, but maybe the cost is worth it for somebody who doesn't have children and wants to have children. Now, if their child, whether adopted or foster, is past the age of 2, you have to find another solution. There is no solution. So how did the Muslims adopt kids in the past or have foster kids in the past? Imam al-Haddad had constantly had foster children. You have to make a separate part of the house. Back in the old days, that was easy. You can get the brothers after Jummah, hey, let's build an extension to the house, and within 2 weeks, 1 week, you have an extension to the house. Today, you have to get permits. Everything costs so much money, blah, blah, blah. But you would have to section off a part of the house that is only for women. And then you have a family area, and then you have a part that's only for men. Let's say, and if you do that, yes, you're going to have to wear a hijab, or in order to come into this family section, there has to be a mahram there. So that is a little bit of an inconvenience. But what is I don't want to say the word obsession, but the Sharia is extremely cautious of mixing people in the same house. And when you actually look at the statistics of things, stepfathers, how they called foster fathers, foster homes, rampant amounts of abuse. So much abuse happens. Sexual abuse, we're talking. So a lot of this stuff, okay, a lot of this stuff is preventative. And some people say, well, people aren't that bad. Yeah, people aren't that bad. However, when one person is that bad, and does an act of sexual abuse, or does a type of Woody Allen thing where he has an affair with his foster daughter, the amount of damage is so terrible that it's worth hassling all the other 99,999 people. It's worth a little bit of hassle for everybody to avoid this one situation. And the Sharia looks at zina that if it's going to be 1,000 steps to zina, the Sharia stops you at it, like renders steps 1 to 10 are discouraged. All right. 10 to like 400 are minor sins. 400 onwards are completely sinful. All right. Like that. Sharia is very cautious about that. This is why when a woman divorces her husband, or she gets divorced, or he dies, and she has a daughter, and then she remarries another man, the Sharia does not encourage for that daughter to go just living with the stepdad and his sons, whether he has sons or not. She's now living in the home of a guy who's not her caretaker, is not her dad, not her blood guardian. Sharia does not want this. So what does Sharia say? She goes to her mom's mom and lives with her mom's mom and her grandpa. Her grandma and grandpa from the mom's side. You go live with your grandmother and your grandpa. That's safer for her. And the mom could go and check and visit her and everything, but she's going to live. I don't know of anyone who's done that in the recent times. I don't know. And I don't know of any. Now, I don't believe that the Sharia says it's haram, but it's definitely not what the Sharia prescribes. It prescribes that if a woman has a daughter and she remarries, that girl is better off living with her grandpa and grandma from her mom's side than with the stepdad. That common sense tells you that. Let's read what Hanbali fiqh says about breastfeeding another's child, because there is a hadith about this, and many people wonder about it. And the answer to this hadith, where an older man, an older boy, past 2, was told to drink from the milk of another woman so that they could become milk children. This is an exception, because the rules of hijab had just come down after years of her having adopted this boy. So now all of a sudden, this woman is the caretaker to that boy. Now he's like 8 or 9 or 10 years old, and the Sharia is coming now forbidding this relationship of him living with her. So because she had done that before the Sharia had brought down the rules of hijab, she earned an exception. Like, rules that are grandfathered in. So that was an exception. So she took some of her breast milk in a cup, he drank it, and then by that, you can resume to be her adopted son. That was an exception. It doesn't apply now because we know the rule before adopting. Nursing is defined as suckling milk. We're reading from Hanbali disciples. Alifun, if you can kindly put up a picture of the website. Hanbali disciples here saying, nursing is defined as suckling milk which was produced by pregnancy. Produced by pregnancy. So that's different because madhabs may differ on whether or not it's allowed if it's artificially... No, that's HanbaliMadhab.com. Go to HanbaliDisciples.com. Okay. So we have to ask about that. Produced by pregnancy. Within 2 years of the nursing child's life. So, from the breasts of a woman and drinking it or consuming it in some other way, like eating it after it has curdled, ingesting it through the nose even, or drinking it without the breast, i.e. from a bottle. It can be consumed mixed with something else, so long as the milk is the dominant ingredient, such that its qualities are still obvious. Injecting milk is not considered nursing. In Islam, the act of nursing another's child prohibits what birth prohibits. Essentially, the child becomes a part of the wet nurse's family as well as the family of the man from whom the milk was produced, i.e. the legal partner in the wet nurse's pregnancy, which resulted in the milk production. Specifically, the child, male or female, is no longer a potential for marriage, mahram, and is not obliged to adhere to the rules of hijab and seclusion. The child is considered their child, and the child's offspring is their grandchild. It continues, just like a child. The parents' children from them, as a couple, or from other spouses, become the child's siblings too. Their parents become the child's grandparents, and their siblings become the aunts and uncles. These rules do not apply beyond the nursed child to his or her biological relatives. This relationship does not oblige financial maintenance, however, inheritance, manumission, or rejection of testimony. So let's take a look at that. We talked about inheritance. Inheritance rules do not carry over. What else doesn't carry over? Rejection of testimony does not carry over. So, for example, a milk child, for his milk father, he can testify for his milk father. But a son cannot testify for his dad because he's clearly going to be biased, right? Like the famous story of the Qadi Shuruyukh al-Qadi, when a Jewish man came to him and said, Sayyidina Ali came to him and said, my shield has been stolen by a Jewish man. So they say, bring the Jewish man. And he said, you're being sued. Sayyidina Ali was Khalifa at the time. Sayyidina Ali is accusing you of stealing the shield. So now, keep in mind, to rewind, before this there was another judge. And the other judge, of course, he loves the Khalifa, Sayyidina Ali. He says, Ijlis hina ya Abul Hassan. Sit here, O Abul Hassan. Immediately, Sayyidina Ali fired him. He said, how are you giving me, the plaintiff, preferential treatment, calling me by my nickname and telling me to sit next to you as the judge? This is not fair. If it was reversed, anyone would say it's not fair. So he removed him. Then he brought Shuruyukh al-Qadi. So he turned to Ali ibn Abi Talib and he said, you're the plaintiff, bring your evidence that that's your shield. He said, bring me Hassan and Hussein. These are the two chiefs of paradise. Chiefs of the youth of paradise, Hassan and Hussein. Shuruyukh said, do you have anyone else? He said, no, I have Hassan and Hussein, who can reject their testimony. He said that their testimony is not acceptable for you. Those are your sons. Of course, anyone could say he's testifying for his dad. So he said, do you have any other witnesses that that's your shield? Now, if you have a phone case, I'm not going to remember what your phone case looks like. I'm not going to remember what Elif's phone case looks like. So your friends don't know what your shield looks like. But my family would know what this phone case looks like. They see it all the time. So, and how many times do you take your shield out? Your shield is hanging in the house 10 months a year. When you have a battle once a year or once every 3 years, you bring your shield out, right? So no one's going to know from his friends and companions. So he says, no, I have no other witnesses except them. He said, okay, the shield stays with the Jew. And the Jewish man, that became an impetus for him to enter Islam. He said, that's it? Case closed? Just like that? He said, yes, case closed. He said, this is the way of prophets. This justice, this fairness is the way of prophets. He's your Khalifa, and he's another fellow Muslim, and he's your elder, and he's a companion, and he's from the guaranteed paradise in your religion, and you rule against him. This is only the way of prophets. Because he's a Jew, he knows the ways of prophets. So he entered Islam. He said, Shadu la ilaha illallah, Shadu Muhammad Rasulullah, and Ali, this is actually your shield, and I did steal it. And he gave it back to Ali. And I think Ali gifted it back to him. SubhanAllah, you see this stuff, and you see there's belief in Allah, that Allah is watching in so many different phases in the demonstration of this behavior in court. Allah's watching. So the judge is not going to favor a Muslim over a non-Muslim in justice. Allah's watching. Sayyidina Ali, a man is going to enter Islam. You're going to reward him with something. Allah's the Razaq. The shield's not going to go. There's plenty of shields in the world. Plenty of wealth to go around. That's the Muslim attitude towards wealth. That's why I said the da'wah for Muslims in America is really three things. Number one, keep having maintain family and grow the families, because that's literally the building block of a community. And the liberal and hedonistic culture has rendered family to be a corny, tacky thing. That's because it's Satan. It's Satanistic. It wants the destruction of humans. But if you think about it logically, in order to have great human civilization, you need people. You need a lot of people. And in order, that's just to have life on earth, human life on earth. If you want a great civilization, you need rationally stable, sound, emotionally stable people. So you need a mom and a dad for that. No matter what else people want to cook up, there's no proof in human history that civilization emerges out of any other system besides a mom and a dad. So you need that for mental stability. And you need that for the procreation of more people. So that by itself, it takes a lot of struggle. It takes a lot of struggle, given not just to stay married takes a lot of struggle, but to convince people not to commit zina. To convince people that this is more important than your career. Careerism is the, almost you could say, not totally haram hedonism in the Islamic community. The selfish hedonism of a Muslim who still wants to be within the lines of Sharia, it's to worship their career. And we see that. People going into 30s and 40s, just career is the number one thing, and there's no kids. No family, no marriage. So we can't say that you did something haram, but you didn't. You're actually, this pathway, if it's multiplied by everyone, it ends with the end of the community, right? This way of living. So we have to speak against it. It's highly discouraged. It's not the way that Allah wants us to live. And shaitan's tricking you. So you're going to be very well off, financially secure, and accomplished in your career, but 50 years old with a 7-year-old kid. It looks odd. Or 40 years old, 45 years old, no wife. There's no way that could be good for you. And I do feel bad for people suffering that. I'm not putting them down. I'm just pointing, just like we could say alcohol is bad, but there are some brothers, converts, struggling with alcohol. It doesn't mean we're putting you down. Just saying that this is not the ideal way of living for a Muslim. And if you have something to say, turn your mic on.
No, I was going to ask, what if their career is in dawah? That's their objective.
If their career is in dawah and you still don't have kids, you're not going to be a good da'i, because you don't know what family life is like. You don't know how women are. You can never really counsel people. You can't talk about family matters, right? So you can only be a theoretician, and we don't value that a lot in Islam. We don't value academic theoreticians who will just give you theory. So maybe that you're going to really be limited to teaching abstract subjects. I don't want to hear what you have to say in the khutbah, because you never suffer what everyone else is suffering. You never enjoy what other people, you'll never even enjoy what other people are enjoying. You'll end up producing a path of life that's not suitable to people with kids. Let's say he's married with no kids. That's already I would say you're disqualified from doing a lot of things. Don't lead. I don't believe that that person is impossible for him to know what that life is like. If you don't know what that life is like, how are you going to advise the people on that? Now, if you don't marry and don't have kids, khalas, just be a zahid. Teach theory, teach Qur'an, teach fiqh, and you can bring a lot of khair to the community, for sure. But they're still not the ideal. And it's very similar when I say that careerism is like the limit of the halal hedonism. It should be discouraged, it should be spoken out against, but I can't say they're doing something haram. If they say, oh, I'm just going to advance my career and not have married and kids or delay it, we speak against it, but I can't say it. There's likewise, you know, the only antidepressant, the khamr, the alcohol and drugs and alcohol of Muslims is food, right? That's the only halal antidepressant they have. And you shouldn't go to food as an antidepressant. But if you do it, I can't say you did something haram. But unfortunately, a lot of people, they suffer the hardships of life and they want to heal themselves. They want to assuage their pain. And they do it through, they don't want to drink. They're not going to go womanizing. They're not going to take drugs. So maybe they'll smoke cigarettes and find some word that says it's makruh, but they shouldn't do that, it's haram. So they eat. That's not the right way to solve spiritual problems. But people do it without even realizing it. What kind of eating they call that? They have a name for it. Emotional eating, stuff like that. I'm down about things. I feel like I want to be happy. Why do we have Sufism then? The whole subject matter of Tasawwuf is fixing this heart. And I tell you, some people, some even Shuyukh who don't believe in this. Why did the Prophet ﷺ talk about the fat rabbi? You're a man of God, but you don't know how to solve your emotional problems except through eating? You got spiritual and emotional problems and you solve them through eating? And you're a rabbi? So the Prophet ﷺ has hadiths in which this archetypical fat rabbi. Why is the Prophet talking about fat rabbi? Does he care about the rabbis? They already have bigger problems than being fat. Right? He's from Ahl an-Nar in the first place for rejecting what he rejects. But the Prophet's using that to warn Muslims without hurting the feelings of Muslims and saying the fat imam and the fat sheikh. Right? And again, there are many wonderful shuyukh. They are overweight. So don't take me wrong on this. Okay? Don't take me wrong that I'm hurting them, and I don't mean to hurt their feelings. I'm saying in general, if you are a man of the Qur'an, a man of Allah, part of religion is to know how to handle emotional ups and downs and spiritual ups and downs. And if you cure that by eating, then that is indicative that you don't know how to solve these problems properly. Emotional problems, spiritual problems should be cured by a number of things prescribed by our religion, one of which is socially eating. One of which. Getting together with your friends and inviting them to food that you cooked, or being invited and eating with them, 100% is one of the ways that will solve sadness. It's one of the ways. There are worldly ways, and that's one of them. And it's a sunnah to do that. There was a Sahabi who said that I would much prefer to slaughter animals, to spend all day cooking, and then to invite my companions for a dinner, than to spend the whole day in the masjid worshiping Allah. Why? Because people heal when... I'm not against social eating. Eating to bring the jama'ah together, to bring friends together, to bring your family together. That I'm not against. So what we're only saying is that problem that a lot of people have, which is, I feel just down about things. Let me just go into the kitchen. Right? Let's go out. I feel down. Let's go out. Let's order something. But you don't need to eat. You're just eating for emotional solutions. That's not the right way to do things. Can't say it's haram. Can't say these people have done something unlawful. We're saying you're doing something harmful to yourself. All right? So that's a little... How did we get on that little side note there, Alif? Alif, part of your job as the man behind the helm, you know that the coach of the Rams, Sean McVay, he has this habit of running onto the field. Like, he doesn't observe the sideline. And the play will be going on, and he'll drift onto the sideline. And they couldn't get him to stop. So they actually hired someone, and they pay him money to pull him back. Why in the NFL do they have so much money that for every single job, there's a different person? There's a person that goes around putting water in the mouth of the guards and the players, right? And the tight ends and the linemen. You have a guy who's like 400-pound lineman who earns $5 million a year, and then you have this girl coming up and squeezing water in his mouth. What? How does that? So they actually hired a guy to pull him back during the games. So what were we talking about when I talked earlier about? We talked about dawah in the country. We said it's about financially being fair in contracts, and just fair is enough. You don't have to be so generous. A little generosity is good, but be with people you do business with fair, and not try to have a gotcha moment. And I learned from a man I sort of took as a mentor, and he said the number one thing that he observes in his business world is when you make a contract with someone, don't try to go for a gotcha moment, right? Don't be grimy like that and go for a gotcha moment. Edif, track our train of thought. How did we get here?
We're at the Huquq of milk children first, and then we went to Ahkam in general, right? Like being fair and being disciplined with people. And then I asked about dawah, like
What if he's in dawah? Oh, we were talking about in dawah. The reason I mentioned Shurut al-Qadi's issue is because in dawah, we need three things. Number one, you keep your family in order, have a family, and then expand it. Okay. That by itself will be like half of your, 3/4 of your purification and your contribution to the ummah. Number two, it's financial fairness, let alone generosity. Fairness, just being fair. Forget being generous. Okay? Generosity is another thing, extra. But being financially fair with people. Not ruining the society by scamming and screwing everybody over. Number three is physical cleanliness. To be physically clean, rather than being unkempt. You don't have tattoos. You don't have piercings. You don't have whatever craziness, right? You dress properly. You cover your body. All these types of things. Omar A, كيف حالك? Omar A, allow me to introduce you to our guest from Brooklyn. Mahmoud? Muhammad what? Pesci? Yeah. You Italian?
Part Italian.
This is Joe Pesci. Be careful. This is Joe Pesci's nephew right here. Is Joe Pesci his real name?
Joe Pesci's his real name?
Give this gentleman his mic. And are you related?
No, we are not related.
But your eyes look the same.
Yeah, so is our height.
Yeah. Joe Pesci is a legend because he has a scene that he does with, what's his face?
He has a couple. He has one with Robert De Niro.
This Scarface scene with Robert De Niro.
That's
standing in the middle of the desert. Is that Scarface?
No, that's Casino.
Casino with 5 expletives per minute. But a certain group of people love that scene. And if you know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about, Omar? No, Tulab al-Ilm and Zuhad don't know about that. But on my Instagram feed, which is half 9/11 truth and the other half is anti-Zionist stuff, that feed must come up about once a week of what the Americans should be saying, what the American president should be saying to Netanyahu, right? All right, if you don't know what we're talking about, don't worry about that. So in any event, let us continue here. I don't know how we got into all that, but let's get back to the subject matter here. In Islam, the act of, I figured out what we were talking about. We were talking about that milk children does not disallow you to testify. The milk children relationship is the exact same as a child relationship, except in inheritance and in testimony. So therefore, a milk child can testify for his father, his milk father. What else does a milk relationship not enter? It does not enter the realm of financial obligation. A girl cannot say, hey, you have to pay for me, okay, because I'm your milk daughter. Can't say that. Whereas your daughter can. Until she marries. She could be 35 years old. Now, are you obligated, is a father obligated to pay for her own apartment and her own car and her own, no. He's just obligated to have a room in the house for her, and she's safe and she has food and clothes. Okay? That's what he's obligated to have for her. So that's an obligation of a man for his daughter until she marries. And if she never marries, then she stays living with them. And he's obligated to provide that. So again, the milk child relationship does not enter financial maintenance, inheritance, or the rejection of testimony. It does not enter these three fields. Okay, 2 conditions must be met for the milk child to take effect. Number 1, the child must consume her breast milk within the first 2 Hijri years of his or her life and not a moment later. Okay, so they put a strict line at the 2 years. Number 2, they must nurse at least 5 times. The moment the child suckles the breast and then releases, even if the release was forced to catch their breath due to distraction or boredom, to move from one breast to another or to move from one wet nurse to another, all that counts as one nursing. When they return to the breast, even if within a short period of time, that's a second nursing. There is no specified amount of milk which must be consumed or time between feedings that must be adhered to. Ingesting the milk in other modes would be treated in a similar fashion. So you put the bottle in his mouth and he suckled a little bit, then the baby turned away. 3 minutes later, you put it back. That's a second feeding. So the Hanbali madhab requires 5 feedings with no limit on how much, no minimum. 1 is the minimum suckling. This differs from, let's say, other madhabs in which they say it's 1 suckle period. That's it, 1 gulp period. All of this is Sharh al-Muntaha Kashaf al-Qina'. Now, keep in mind, there is no constriction, no condition on the age of the milk. So the woman's breast milk may have been frozen there for a while. May have been frozen for some period of time. There's no mention of any condition on the milk itself. Do you know the Hanafi rules on this? No. Okay, so that is some Hanbali fiqh for you all. And again, that is from John Starling. And he will be, inshallah ta'ala, teaching with us at Arkview, Aqeeda, from Qala'idul Aqyan, and we will have him on the stream, inshallah ta'ala. What else are we reading today? A little bit of Tasawwuf. We said that spirituality, it can be, what is it? The human being by nature seeks something beyond the material. We believe that human life has to have something beyond the material. And we want a connection with the Creator. All human beings are trying to do this. Or at least I say, throughout civilization, throughout human history, people have tried to do this. Now, spirituality is not a default good. Human beings need law too, right? Is every law good by default just because it's a law? No, of course not. Not every law is good. So likewise, all spiritualities are not good. Just because someone's spiritual does not mean he's closer to Islam or further away. Spirituality can also be tapped into through the dark side. And that's what all of the occult, New Ageism probably dabbles in that. All of paganism is like that. They're trying to get beyond the material, but they're doing it in the wrong way, with wrong beliefs, with wrong actions, and they're led by Satan. And it's all jinn. I'm personally convinced all the Hindu gods are jinns who scare their people until they bow to them or whatever. Scare them into obedience. Okay. Make false promises to them. And their gurus get in touch with these jinns. And these jinns could also lure people with temptations and make you wealthy. Okay. Like signing a deal with the devil. Things like that. So that's the dark side of spirituality. Then you have a neutral side of spirituality. The neutral side of spirituality is simply earthly practices. The mercy that I would call it, the mercy that Allah put on the earth. Okay. And that mercy is, for example, going out in nature. Omar, you guys go out in nature all the time these days. Can you let me know so I can tell some of the other youth who want to go with you? When's the next endeavor?
We have a big hike plan, but it's not for you.
Okay.
It's a really difficult one.
No, high school kids.
Yeah, but it's like, this one's hard.
Let them.
We're going to train. We need to train for it.
Let them
I'll add them.
suffer.
We have a group for hiking. Camping.
We took the youth out for a hike 2 summers ago. Maybe last summer we did it.
Last summer as well.
It was last summer, right? And we made those burgers and everything, and we swam in that lake with Ryan and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really fun. It was really good.
For the, what is it? Dina Essentials? What is it? What are the classes again?
Dean Essentials, yeah. It was for high school. It was informal.
The outings need to be outside though. No more restaurants.
No
Just,
restaurants.
it's terrible.
It's terrible. I'm not eating for these restaurants no more. Yeah. So you know what we were saying earlier? Earthly spirituality. This connects to something we were saying earlier. That I said that I actually don't mind food as a social eating. I don't think is a problem because it has good to it. It brings people together. There's good to it. Emotional eating is bad. Social eating is good. The other ways that a Muslim would relieve the depression from himself that naturally comes to people through the ups and downs of life is through your friends. That's the easiest way. Your friends. Number 2, through connection with your family. That's the easiest way. Number 3, sleeping right. Number 4, this is what's a bit harder for people, contemplation. Contemplate the akhirah. Contemplate the shortness of life. Okay? How short is life? And what is paradise like? Number 5, this is a bit harder, but it needs training. That's one of the reasons Sufi orders used to exist, is to train people how to make dhikr. I don't see any difference between the old Sufi zawiyas, the old Sufi lodges, and gyms. The gym is for your body. The Sufi lodge is for your soul. Most people today, they can't lift. They don't know how to lift. They buy a machine, it just sits there. They buy the free weights and it just sits there. They buy the dumbbell and it just sits there. But if he starts going to the gym with his friends, all of a sudden, oh, we're doing it because it's social now. You've made it social and you have guides. And you have people who look better than you. You're like, oh my gosh, I want to look like that, right? And you start lifting. And you have people who push a little bit and pressure you a little bit of good peer pressure to lift now. A little bit of good peer pressure to eat better. The Sufi lodge is the same thing for your soul. You got all these people now doing dhikr, fasting, right? Lowering their gaze, studying ilm, doing more dhikr, doing dhikr in groups, doing dhikr privately. Everyone's talking about dhikr. So you're going to be better. It's the same thing. It's the gym for your heart and your soul. Some people have this crazy notion that the Sufi lodge, everyone just has to obey the sheikh and not think. Not at all. It's not the case at all. Where are you getting these ideas from? It's not the case at all. When you go to a gym, you have a trainer, okay? And he's supposed to help you along the way. It's the same thing at having a sheikh in the lodge in the old days, right? He helps you along the way. That's it. So where are there places of abuse? I can find you the gyms that have abuse too. But nobody says, oh, we got to cancel all gyms because that trainer, right, ended up abusing the gym person. So that's the same concept. So that is one of the best ways of alleviating the natural sadnesses that come to people in life. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells in the Quran, Alif, use you instead of OO. There we go. There we go. This is why Shuyukh, what were we talking about? Awliya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. La khawfun alayhim wa la yahzanun. They hardly get sad because they're always tapped into the akhirah. They're always tapped into, they know the cures. So there are cures for everybody, and there are cures for those who understand the prophetic message and have knowledge, and those cures, of course, are superior. Likewise, spirituality, eat right. Most people, I believe, a lot of the sadness is actually related to nutrition, believe it or not. We're ingesting garbage into our bodies non-stop these days. And the more I learn for nutrition, the more shocked I get. I'm like, everything is bad. Anything that has a commercial is bad, right? When was the last time you saw a commercial for like apples? You don't need commercials for these, for oranges and bananas and apples and lettuce, right? And water. Water has commercials.
It's like expensive nonsense.
Those are scam. That's scam water. $5 for Fiji water. Okay. But you everything that has a commercial for it, it's the bad stuff that has commercials for it. So eat right, get some sun, sleep right, be with your friends, go to the masjid. All of these are the natural, forget the masjid because that's from religious knowledge. Go out in nature. These are the natural antidepressants that all humans have access to, and that's what I like to call the earthly spirituality, the worldly spirituality that everyone has access to. And if that's all you had, you still have a good share. But now comes the greater spirituality that will trump all of that, which is prophetic spirituality. What the prophets have brought down to connect you to the world of light and the world of angels. And that is dhikr. Now, what does the dhikr do? It brings sakina down to you. Where does the sakina fall? Into your heart. It actually comes on your whole body and your skin. That's why the Quran says it actually softens your skin. It comes down upon you, on your skin, your bone. What the Prophet has a hadith? Put light in my eyes, in my ears, in my bones, in my hair. Everything. So the sakina literally comes down upon you and goes through your entire body and into your soul. Now, if I'm going to bring, let's say, a material like water, and I want to pour it on a surface, then I should not have oil on that surface, correct? Or what's going to happen? The water will fall right off. So likewise, the first step in Islamic spirituality is to recognize that sakina comes down and settles in the heart. But if the heart is dirty, what's the point? What's the point of me taking this beautiful milk mixed with honey and pouring it into a dirty cup? Then when you drink it, it tastes bad and it doesn't nourish you and it makes you sick. And if you feed it to other people, they get sick. Some people go to a sheikh, they do dhikr with the sheikh, and they get worse. Yeah, the dhikr is this beautiful milk and honey, but the heart of the sheikh is sick, so they got worse. They literally got worse. So likewise, the first step of hard work is to close off the 7 pathways to the heart. There are 7 pathways to the heart. Close them off from sins. This is a must. And these 7 pathways are, number 1, the eyes. Most deadly of all of them from the outset. Most very difficult to guard your eyes. Because you have to open your eyes throughout every day. And you don't know who's walking in the streets or in your university or at work. The second is the ears. The third is the tongue. The fourth is the stomach. The 5th is the hands. The 6th is the feet. And the 7th and back-breaking limb is the private parts. Because literally, the private parts, in order for it to commit its sin, all 6 of the other limbs have to participate in it. No one commits zina without seeing the person he's committing zina with. You don't commit zina without hearing them talk. You don't commit zina without talking to them. You don't commit zina without energy. You need to have eaten, and most likely people may eat haram. If you don't eat and zina is right in front of you, you won't do it. You literally, that part of your body shuts off when you're famished. Nobody, while fasting, right before Maghrib, thinks about zina. The last half hour before you break your fast, and you are completely dried out of food and water, there's not a single person in the ummah who thinks about zina, right? Unless he slept all day until that moment. But if you're a normal person, a normal Muslim, and you've dried out your intestines completely, where are the intestines? Where's the stomach? It's right above the mahal zina. It's right above your private parts. If that part's dry, then the other part's definitely dry and not functioning. So that's why they say the cure to people who are suffering from zina is hunger. And you don't eat. You don't need to eat. Truth of the matter is, I just watched a video from Kevin James yesterday. Kevin James is one of these actor comedians. You know his face, but you don't know his name. Everyone knows his face. Just don't know his name. If a person can grab onto any flesh on their waist, you do not need to eat. This dude, he had an acting job and he finished the job, but in this job, he was a boxer. So he had to actually lose about 50 pounds because he's got to take his shirt off and be a boxer. The dude then, the movie's over. He goes on vacation as all the actors do, and he just eats and he sits on a yacht or whatever, and he ends up gaining the weight again. The producer calls him and they say, hey, we forgot 2 scenes. We got to do 2 scenes. The movie doesn't make sense without 2 extra scenes. So he's like, I gained the weight back. I said, well, you got to lose it. So he decided to do dry fasting. Water only. And a pinch of electrolytes. So he does 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. It's like, he wants to get paid. He's not a big shot actor. No, the world's not going to wait for him. So he doesn't want to disappoint the production company. He ends up going 41 and a half days on water. And his body just got used to eating the fat. Why would you need breakfast when you got breakfast right here? People snack and they eat psychologically. Family and friend eating, to me, is justified because it's good. Within, if what you're eating is healthy, it's good. But mental eating, psychological eating, habit eating, it's not needed, right? So if somebody has zina problems, all forms of zina of the eyes, zina of everything, it will all dry out if you persist in hunger. The dude did 41 and a half days on water only, and he lost like 50 pounds in 41 and a half days. Okay. And he said that your mood, it's really interesting because you get so tired and hungry and you're like, "Khalas, I'm going to die. I can't do this anymore." Then you just bounce back. Something happens with the energy cycles of a person and they actually end up saying they love it and they enjoy it. Okay. So he did that. When the Prophet ﷺ was very common, very, very common for the Prophet to go many days without anything but water and dates. And think about it, physically speaking, when I see about when I read this stuff and I see these things and it's all over the internet, this stuff, you start to realize if you can grab something, right? That's lunch. That's dinner. Why not let your body eat that? Why would you add food to that? Right? It's just going to sit there. Autophagy, sounded bad. Autophagy is a cellular autophagy.
Autophagy.
Damage is done. Okay? The damage is done. Autophagy is a cellular process where cells break down and recycle damaged or unnecessary components. The first thing that your body goes for is the bad cells. So you want to purify your body. And this is like, maybe, is this a preventative from cancer? Because isn't cancer bad cells? Right? Allahu Alam. Could be. So the first thing that your body goes for when there's no food is the bad cells, the weak cells, the dirt, the damaged cells, the unnecessary. Then it goes to the unnecessary cells, which is your fat cells. It's essentially a cellular housekeeping mechanism that helps maintain cellular health and adapt to stress. This process involves engulfing cellular debris in a membrane and delivering it to lysosomes for degradation and recycling. Okay, that last sentence sort of went over my head. But the term autophagy comes from the Greek word of self-devouring. In other words, using your own body, your cells, and your fat for energy. Now, when people think about this, they can't handle it. And I'm telling you, it's not physical. It's 100% psychological. Right? I'm cold, I need to eat something. You actually don't need to eat something. If you're cold, then you wear more clothes, drink something hot, and move your body. If you can actually physically or psychologically get over the hump of the food habits and the eating habits that we have, you'll find yourself to be in a far healthier thing. All this, I'm doing this stuff because we all know that I've already told everybody about the avoid disaster diet, because I'm a master of the avoid disaster. Avoid disaster means, bro, you're talking here and I'm down here, because I was down here and worse. And I used to hear these people talk and see their videos and like, man, you guys are way up here. I can't even give me something less than that. So the avoid disaster diet was what I came up with through experience, through lived experience of what a complete health failure can accomplish. What is doable for a health failure, a failure at health? I'm now going at the get good diet. Now we're moving from avoid disaster to get good. And my madhab, it suits basically, it's my personal opinion on what works and what works for me. And what I'm coming to realize is that food is so psychological. It has even nothing to do with energy. I need to eat because I need energy. Yeah, okay, if you have a blood sugar issue, that's different. That you're a special case. But most people actually don't. And you can force your body to use the energy that it has. I remember there was one time a kid on my hockey team when I was in high school. And he wasn't that good, but he loved the game. He was the goalie. He loved hockey. He finally got into hockey. And there was he was not that good. So his mom and his dad, they got him all the used goalie equipment. He looked terrible out there. Beating up brown pads, a helmet mask. He had none of the cool goalie equipment. He kept begging his mom for the goalie equipment. His mom was like, when you're good, I'll get you goalie equipment. But you're not good. Why would I get you goalie equipment when you're not that good? So that kid actually got good over the course of that season. And we reached the point that we made the semifinal one year. The next year we made the final. We won the championship in the town league. And then he got his equipment. So you can force somebody, they'll kick and scream in the beginning. You can force them to make do with what they have. Any good parent these days, when the kid says, I'm bored, say, okay, be bored. What do you want me to do? Don't do anything. They'll kick and scream, say they're bored. Within minutes, that child will have made up a game with whatever he has around him. You got a garbage can and a piece of paper, that's basketball right there, right? You got a ball and a wall. That's a game right there. You dig up the old Scrabble from the, whatever closets that people got, drawers, empty drawers, okay? You can make up all sorts of games. This is the best way to improve creative thinking, is to give somebody nothing. Likewise, you can train your body at this, and you could train your mind to stop this emotional, psychological reliance on ta'am. First thing I wake up, I got to have the coffee or the ta'am. No, you actually don't. Your body will kick and scream. This is why what I love about Sharia. Every Ramadan, Allah forces you. Break all these habits. Coffee first thing in the morning, not in Ramadan. Right? You kick and scream for the first 2 days, got a headache for the first 3 days, then it goes away. And you're like, oh, I'm not dependent on coffee. Hajj. You go to Hajj. You have 10 things to sleep. Not on Hajj. You can't cover your face on Hajj. No eye patches. No ear plugs. All your weird sleeping things that you think you need, you don't need them. Right? And Hajj will force you to break all these habits to see what kind of strength that we actually have. I'm into this. But I do understand this is all from the fadl. This is not from the religious obligation, so we have to, this is a religious stream, so we have to separate that. This is stuff that if you want this stuff, it's good for you. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. But I like this idea. It's a very empowering idea that, why is autophagy important? It's crucial for removing damaged proteins and organelles, preventing cellular dysfunction. It prevents disease. It prevents neurodegenerative degenerative diseases. It prevents infections. It prevents cancer. What are we talking about? Forcing your body to eat what's right here. You got food on your body. That is totally legitimate food for the body. Totally legitimate. You just have to force your body to eat it.
Look at the other day, that guy went 300, what,
Dude.
340 days? That's crazy.
Bring that picture, that show everybody. The guy went over 1 year without food. The record.
It was like,
More than 340. No.
it's
Alif,
a world record for
world record.
fast.
Irish dude or Scottish dude or something. Oh, you never heard about this guy?
Oh, this guy right here.
Look at this guy.
Barbieri.
Just put his picture up.
Oh, we put it up the other day.
Yeah.
But it's related.
Oh, this wasn't recent. This was.
No, this is old.
The dude went from the one honeymoon character to the next.
Wow.
It's not like the same person.
You know the honeymoons? The honeymooners?
Yeah. Oh,
They're old.
Pow, Alice right to the moon.
Hey, the guy transformed from one honeymooner to the next, right? Because the honeymooners is a really big guy and a really skinny guy. All right? It's an old comedy from the 50s.
Wow.
How many days? How
But
many
look
days?
at this guy. Huh?
How much weight did he lose?
Just go to his story on his Angus Barbieri's fast right
I mean,
there.
the longest I've done.
Just
at
go to the
contract
wiki.
school was 10 days.
That's amazing. You did it?
35
Oh, wow.
pounds.
That's amazing.
10 pounds.
Angus Barbieri in the 60s, he went for 382 days, subsisting only on tea, coffee, sparkling water, vitamins, and yeast extract, while living at home in Tayport, Scotland, frequently visiting the hospital for medical evaluation. Well, yeah, of course, when you're going to do that much. Barbieri went from 456 pounds to 180 pounds, losing 276 pounds, 125 kgs, and setting a record for the length of a fast. Agostino Angus Barbieri, the man is named after meat. He was born in Scotland to Italian parents. Of course, meat and pasta all day long. And they ran a fish and chip shop. Even worse, oil all day long. Due to his enormous physique. How much did he start it off as? 450 what? Subhanallah, 456. Due to his enormous physique, he required assistance with ordinary endeavors. When he traveled to the British Home Championship at Wembley Stadium in 1961, he needed a group of people to push and pull him through the door of the bus. You know how depressing that is?
That was his turnaround story.
Unable to fit through a turnstile at the stadium, he was escorted through a gate by police. And many other fans without tickets reportedly hopped the police lines to enter the stadium while the police were occupied. In 1965, at the age of 27, Barbieri checked into the Merryfield Hospital in Dundee. Initially, only a short fast was planned, as the doctors believed short fasts were preferable to longer ones. Barbieri insisted on continuing because he adapted so well and was eager to reach his ideal weight. To avoid temptation, he quit working at his father's fish and chip shops, which closed down during the fast. As the fast progressed, he lost all desire for food. Subhanallah. Yeah. For 382 days, from 14 June 1965 through 30 June 1966, he consumed only vitamins and electrolytes and an unspecified amount of yeast, which is a source for all essential amino acids. How do you eat yeast by itself? Omar, could you, Alif, can you look that up on your cell phone? Don't leave the tab, but look up on your cell phone. How do you consume yeast? In water? So he had 0-calorie beverages such as tea, coffee, and sparkling water, although he occasionally added milk and or sugar to the beverages, especially during the final weeks of the fast. Barbieri began his treatment in the hospital, but for most of the 382 days, he lived at home, visiting the hospital for outpatient checkups. That means he wasn't even admitted in the hospital, like sitting in a bed or anything, including blood and urine samples. Stool samples were not taken, but he reportedly went up to 48 hours between stools.
No, he went up to 48 days.
Oh, 48 days. 48. I thought it said 48 days
Yeah, I'm reading that.
between stools.
Between stools, that means he was still alleviating all that waste.
Yeah.
But it's 48
Ramadan could
days.
pass and he'd never use it.
Subhanallah. 48 days between stools. He started his starting weight was 456 pounds, which was 207 kilograms. And the fast officially stopped on July 1st, 1966, when Barbieri reached his goal of 180 pounds or 82 kilograms. For the next 10 days, the doctors placed him on a diet of salt and then sugar in preparation for solid food. Thus, some sources record the fast as being 392 days, if you include those 10 days. After 1 year and 26 days without food, Angus Barbieri ate his first solid meal at 10 a.m., which was a boiled egg and a slice of buttered bread. He said to the gathered newspapers, reporters, and photographers, "I have forgotten what food tastes like. It went down okay. I feel a bit full, but I thoroughly enjoyed it." He feels full from a boiled egg and a slice of bread.
Stomach shrunk, isn't it?
Yeah. In 1971, Barbieri's 382-day fast was recognized as the longest recorded. As of 2025, Barbieri retains the record for the longest fast without solid food, and Guinness does not actively encourage records relating to fasting or unsafe behavior. Follow-up. Doctors were amazed by Barbieri's ability to resist the temptation to eat without having to stay in the hospital. He celebrated his achievement by going on a vacation to Spain for 3 weeks, and a 1973 study found that Barbieri maintained a healthy weight of 196 pounds, concluding that prolonged fasting in this patient had no ill effects. Why would it have ill effects? He had storage of food. That's food right there. He moved to Warwick and married a woman named Mary and had 2 sons, and he died in September of 1990 after a short illness. What would his fate have been if he didn't fast? He would have had so many diseases. Okay.
Wouldn't have got married, probably.
Definitely wouldn't have gotten married. And here's why you shouldn't also go this route of being reckless, is because his weight does not mean he went down to a beautiful skinny physique because you have too much skin. In this day and age, they laser the skin off, if I'm not mistaken, right? They actually have to, it's a very painful and tough process, but you did have extra skin. So what do you do with that extra skin? They have to cut it off. If you have decent overweightness, normal overweightness, then you don't have that problem. So be careful of the skin issue. Okay? I want to repeat this again because this is a program of the deen. This live stream, Safina Society, we care about the deen. This is manfa'ah. This is spreading benefit. This is spreading goodness, so that nobody should feel religiously guilty or that this is a religious, specifically spiritual topic. This is fadl. This is good life and good living and benefit. Okay? And it is not something that we're going to guilting people and deriding them as if they committed some sins. It's not. Okay? and it's sort of a personal interest that I've developed over time. Alif, did you find out how people consume yeast?
Yeah, there's a different kind called nutritional yeast, and you can dissolve it in things like water. So that's probably what you do.
You just dissolve it in water. Okay, good. Subhanallah. So shabab out there, youth who have severe problems with zina of the eye and other forms of zina, why don't you try this? Get into this world and possibly see if there's that this will solve your problem. And these are not Shar'i fasts. It's not a Sharia fasting. Yeah. Sharia fasting is different. The Prophet's hunger he was always hungry.
No, I meant for
Almost always hungry.
So that's what I'm saying. If you have, if you struggle with these shahwat, then
Fast, yeah. And try this fasting. Because a lot of times modern people, when they fast all day, then he goes and binges on fried food and Coke at night and then ice cream, then he wonders why he's falling into zina again. That food is activating your nafs. So keep your intestines and your stomach dry from food. You've literally blockaded the loins. You've literally put a blockade. The loins get no energy to commit zina. And if you're too young, then maybe this is not healthy for you. But if you're in your 20s and you're suffering from this mas'ala, get interested in these dry fasts. And most likely, I believe, the problems with zina and pornography and all that, these traps of Iblis, they're going to go away. They should go away. And when we talked about the 7 limbs, it's the number 1 most dangerous limb. The mailman of this limb is the eye. The eye sends the first message. But then this zina of the haram of the private parts cannot occur without assistance from all the other limbs. You have to walk. You have to use your feet. You have to use your hand. You have to use all of your everything else. And if it's with a living person, you're going to use your words and your ears, right? If it's with the computer, then no words and ears will be used. But nonetheless, it's all the same. It's all haram for haram. Okay? So tasawwuf in Islam, spirituality in Islam does not entail reading mystical books, getting involved in all sorts of mysticisms, doing everything fringy in Sharia. Right? No. It involves locking down the 7 limbs from zina, from haram, from all these things. Then add to your heart after you've cleansed the plate. Now you can start adding the food. يَكْفِيكَ شَيْئًا قَلِيلًا مِنَ الذِّكْرِ. If you can do this, achieve this, and clean the plate like this, then a small amount of nutritious food will do wonders. I mean by that, as an analogy, a little bit of Qu'ran every day. Pick up a misbah and never let it go from your hand while you're driving, while you're sitting. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah. That is the tasawwuf, the real amali tasawwuf that's going to bring the realities that you're reading about in your heart directly. Prayer on time, prayer in the masjid, suhbah of salihin, listening to the Quran, basic stuff. I'm telling you, tasawwuf, its reputation for some people is some really out of reach mysticism, and it's not. Look at the book I'm reading to you from Ibn Ashir's. If you just live by this chapter is literally almost all you need of tasawwuf. But just lock down the 7 limbs. If you want to lock down the 7 limbs, the one that activates all of them is the stomach. Here's the beauty of it. Not when you do this practice and you will really get involved in this kind of dry fasting, let alone Shara'i fasting, but this dry fasting, not only does your spirituality get better and your iman gets better and your ability to avoid sins get better, your actual body looks better too. Your body will look better. I don't believe in any of these kind of diets and programs. Just stop eating. Simple mathematics, right? And I've seen it too. I've seen it in somebody who had a big stomach. And again, we're not shaming anyone who has a big stomach. Anyone could have a big stomach. I could have a big stomach. It's not shaming anyone. But due to simple old age, stopped eating. And became skinny. Okay? So the math is the math. Now, if you want to get slightly more sophisticated, there are bad calories and there are good calories. Either way, you have to have a calorie deficiency. The easiest way to do that is not to eat or to limit the window of your eating. Eat for only like 3-4 hours a day. You set the times and you observe that. That's it. Everything else is just water. So you do have to decrease your calories, but you can decrease and have a small amount of bad calories. Sugars, processed foods, it will sit in your body as fat, and your body will not know what to do with them and will take a lot of energy. And the proof of that is anytime we go to one of these restaurants that we go to, and we have to resolve this and find a solution for
I
this.
spoke to the guys. We're gonna do weekly at someone's house barbecue.
Excellent.
I'm gonna make a group. I'm gonna wait for the.
Excellent. Okay,
I was
good.
actually thinking about that 1 minute ago. When you were
Very good. And we'll make a pool of money to order the lamb chops or the whatever food. Because we go to these places and we get the latest glazed wings. Okay? We get the latest of all these things. Okay? And we love these things. And fried. And then the milkshake with the whipped cream at the top. Every single one of us sits at the table afterwards. We're starting to sweat, first of all. That means your body's like, hey, stop. This is not good. We're all dragging at that point. And you walk to the car a little bit depressed, heavy, and not feeling that great. Why is that? The processed foods, to think about it, chemicals, oils, is not meant for the body.
There's no bark in it. It's like made in like by some Mexican guy. Like
No butter in it. It's
there's no love in it.
and the body's not meant for this. Hello, Mimai. Yes, who's this? Okay, I'm in a meeting right now. I'll call you later, inshallah. Okay. So you see, subhanallah, Allah tells you right away through your body. Your body's not meant to have this stuff. Get rid of this stuff. So in the pull up the Nova chart, Alif. Yeah, it's a Nova food chart. And that food chart tells you that at the top of that, it's the processed foods. I mean, we all know this, right?
No.
Yeah. What they call, put that picture up there. What they call the fourth level there, ultra processed foods. And this is the food that physically our human body is not intended, is not created to break these down. Okay. And if you look at kids with their teeth, I don't think any doctor has ever told a kid, hey kid, you're getting cavities, too many mangoes, right? No kid has been told that ever. It's the Skittles, it's the sugars that are made in factories that are stripped from their fibers and purified, pure sugar, stripped from the fiber. Right? Fiber is what makes the digestion of these sugars possible. So you see here on this chart that Alif has, make it a little bit bigger if you can, Alif, so that everyone could see it. Yeah, there we go. See that magenta, that fluorescent red there, pink? That's what is deadly. Okay, that's what's deadly. You can eat a lot of, at the proverbial say, grandma's cooking, right? You can eat a lot of that. You don't feel the same misery, right? You feel heavy. Yeah, it's heavy, but it's not miserable after eating fast food. So the first three, acceptable. But the fourth one is what is deadly to us. And when we talk about banning this stuff, we're talking about 90%. Because it's not conceivable, and it's not from Islamic manners, that someone invites you, let's say, to a party. And how are we going to celebrate this event of yours? We're all going out to ice cream. It's not from Islamic manners to say, yeah, I'll come with you. but I'm a special diet and I'm superior to all you, and all you people are got rolls, and I need to have abs. These are from the extremes that we've been talking about that we hate. So when we say cut it out, we're saying 9 out of 10 times. In other words, for yourself, cut it out. But it's not from Islamic manners. I don't believe in it, and I don't even believe in treating this thing as if it's a religion and then offending other people. So if a whole bunch of guys get together and it doesn't offend anybody that I'm not eating this junk, then I don't eat it. But also at the same time, if it does offend them and someone invited you and that's the what they bought for you, no, we're going to eat it, because we're not going to go to that extreme. And that extreme, or that measure of eating that stuff for the sake of adab, it also helps you psychologically, because you don't miss it anymore. You could actually ban yourself from ice cream or cheeseburgers or popcorn and Coke to such a degree that it becomes it gets a mystique in your mind. It actually grows in your mind. So this is not from the prohibitions that have to be like pork, treated like that. When Allah forbids something like pork and you stop it, you don't miss it. Allah helps you. But this is something that, yes, you won't miss it, but at the same time, you may. It's not the same, right? It's not the same. You may someday miss it. So a little bit of that, processed foods in circumstances of adab with people will actually deflate the mystique. And I think there's a value in that.
You also find in the right box.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those ingredients that you go in there are made from impurities that are actually prohibited from us consuming anyway. Like red
That's
40
true.
is made from beetles.
That's true. Yeah.
You know, the blue dye, the yellow 40.
Yeah. Well, you know, the Shafi'is, though, allow the consumption of insects without intending to kill it. So all those dyes that are made from beetles and insects and stuff, by Sharia, the Shafi'i fiqh would have allowed it. Also, probably Hanafi and Maliki would allow it on the concept of it becoming so processed, it lost its originating source. But then again, we can ask ourselves another question. Are we meant to be eating that many beetles, right?
Could that be said for gelatin then?
Yeah, for Malikis do.
In and of itself, every part of it.
Even istihala. But I don't tell people the istihala thing about gelatin. Some people, their only religious good deed they do is avoid gelatin. So don't take that away from them too. Exactly. Subhanallah. So let's open up a little bit of Q&A here before we wrap up. The 7 pathways into the heart. Islamic spirituality, Islamic antidepressant doesn't go sit and analyze my childhood. No. It goes and it asks, what are you doing? What are you putting into your body? What are you saying? What are you listening to? Transform your actions. Yes, maybe an assessment of my childhood was important. Okay? And is why let's say I distrust something in life. Yeah, maybe because you distrusted in childhood, something bad happened. So a little bit of that possibly is okay. And it makes sense. Okay. TY says, a lot of people ask me this question. There's a brother who asked me this question too. What about eating a lot of food for bodybuilding purposes? All right. To be honest with you, I don't have an answer to that. I don't know what the bodybuilding world feels like and how that. And I knew 2 guys who were very much unfit until they got made fun of really badly, and they felt like they need to get fit. So they started going to the gym. 2 brothers in London, England. And they started getting sort of obsessed with the gym, sort of like the way I'm sort of always talking about this subject these days. They got obsessed with the gym. And so they got in really good shape really quick because they're young. When you're young, you can transform your body real quick. and they started going to the gym, and one of their trainers, they said, you have to have this much protein. So they would get tuna and flakes of potatoes and mash it up in big jars and literally be eating jars of that stuff all day. They worked in their dad's shop, and while they're checking people out, they're just downing these jars of tuna. And I'm like, they said they needed to do that in order to, obviously their muscle has to be made out of something. I don't have an answer to this brother who talks about eating a lot because they're bulking up. So I don't have an answer to that from a binge eating, excessive eating. Allah knows best, to be honest with you.
They say it's overeating, filling your stomach is haram unless you're doing it for like strength in your body or for
Okay, so there, the Hanafi madhab says it's permitted to do that.
strength.
To do it for strength is permitted to
But
eat
that's
like
a
that.
whole aspect, that's a whole nother discussion.
Spiritual aspect is different, but the fiqh of it, there is the answer to it. The fiqh of it is, it's lawful.
I come
Yes.
from the bodybuilding world.
Yeah.
I can tell you, the number one question that I would ask is bodybuilding a need or a desire? If you're saying for strength, then I would argue that all those points of view are valid. But how many bodybuilders
Yeah,
are
that's
not
true.
building simply out of vanity?
Yep.
A competition of,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because most bodybuilders, like when I was powerlifting, it was all done for competition.
Yeah.
Which is a worldly game, really.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and when you think about that, for me, that's why I kind of shied away from that world. I still go to the gym,
Yeah.
but you're consuming, we're talking 5,000 to 8,000 calories a day.
Insane.
You get what I'm saying, right? That's 3 times the recommended amount.
That's crazy.
And
Edif, is his mic on, by the way?
Yeah. Wait.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
most people, we're lucky if we can get people that are struggling to eat right now. So think
Yeah.
about what you're doing. You're consuming so much while there's others who can't consume anything.
Mm-hmm.
So
There's a little
for
bit
me,
of,
for me, from a spiritual aspect, I saw that as being spiritually bankrupt because it's
Yeah.
very selfish in that regard.
was also, if you're in the bodybuilding world for yourself, that's one thing. If you're in competitions, there's revealing your aura.
You have to.
It's haram.
There is no
Such
revealing
thing
your
as
aura.
not going in a Speedo, right?
Right.
So just on that is an issue. But if you're bodybuilding for yourself, there's that other issue of, were you eating 8,000 calories to make yourself look like that? And there are people who it doesn't sit right in your heart, right? But so, any of the former bodybuilders who studied fiqh and sat with Shuyukh can probably answer that better.
Why don't we have Sheikh Harun?
Sheikh Harun, we can ask him.
Well, what?
No, I'm actually a fan of the military exercises
Yeah, for sure.
because I find them efficient. All you need is a floor, maximum a pull-up bar maybe or something like that. But 1,000 Navy SEALs a day, that's insane. That's awesome. You can train your body to do those. You just have to. Your body, your ligaments won't handle it now. Your muscles won't handle it now. But if you do 10 a day, 50 a day. And a Navy SEAL is basically, it entails a jump up to the sky. That's for your legs. Down to a crouch position. Out to a push-up position. Do a push-up. Pull your legs in real quick. That's a core exercise. And then jump up again.
Mm-hmm.
So you've literally covered arms, core, and legs in one. That's what they call a Navy SEAL. And there was a guy who was discharged, finished his tour of duty with the Navy SEALs, or his whatever his, I don't know how it works, but he was done with it. And he used to record every morning and outdoors, put the camera on, and literally do 1,000 Navy SEALs right there. And you could tell it was real because the sun was moving. The shadow was moving across. He'd do it at sunrise or sunset, outdoors. Impressive. Extremely impressive. You do that and you watch what you eat, we'll be in a reasonable looking chiseled body. not these crazy guys, and half of them are on hormones and steroids anyway. And when you see these guys and you see pimples all over his back and discoloration of skin, then you know he's on something abnormal. But that's like a totally natural chiseled body is going to look like. Steve says, I'm trying to understand why you believe in God. Well, what else made all this? Except for one who has life, has knowledge, has power, has will. Right? What else made all this world? Which is 1,000 million, billion, trillion times greater than anything a human being has ever made. So if you're going to tell me this iPad for sure resulted from a being that has knowledge, ability, will, right, then what about the one who made the iPad? Right? What's more valuable, the iPad or the guy who made it? The species who made the iPad or the iPad itself? So if you're, whatever you're going to admit about the iPad, of that it has to have a maker, that maker has to be alive, that maker has to have knowledge, that maker has to have ability, that maker has to have choice, will, because he chose to make it this dimension instead of another dimension. It could have been made of a different material. He chose certain things, so will. Then the maker of the iPad is a superior thing. Then the maker of that iPad, that human being, for sure has something far greater. Right? Has those attributes as well. Of life, will, ability, knowledge, power. Okay. And when we say something has life, that means it sees and hears and speaks. Otherwise, this life is incomplete. And what do we call these in Aqeeda? Al-Sab'a Sifat al-Ma'ani. And all of the prophet of the divine attributes from the Hadith and the Quran can be categorized in one of these 7. All of Allah's attributes are categorized under one of these 7 attributes. And then we have 5 attributes of negation, found in Surah Al-Ikhlas and also determinable by the mind, which is oneness, wahdaniyah, cannot have a partner. If God has a partner, then who's creating? Oh, they work together. So therefore one of them is not needed. One makes the day and one makes the night. Okay, so then the God of the day is not needed in the night. He's not a God. Oh, they had a fight and one made a universe over here and we're in another universe over here. Then he's not all powerful. If you can fight God, then he's not a God. Number 3, they work together. They do everything together. Then therefore they're redundant. They're not wise. Why would you put the book here if I'm going to put the book here? Right? Why would you create a moon if I already created a moon? Why do we need to do it together? Then it's not, that's redundancy. It's not wisdom and not needed. So God is one. Qul huwallahu ahad. Allahu samad. He is needed for everything and he needs nobody else. It's called al-ghina al-mutlaq. Absolute independence. It's also known as al-qiyam bin nafs. He sustains himself. If God needs something, then that thing has a favor over God, has power over God, and therefore is not God. Anything that needs anything is not a God, by definition. So God needs nothing. Number 3, God is the creator of time. He exists before time completely and will exist when there's no time again, when there's no existence and no people and no angels even. So we call that al-qidam wal-baqa. He is outside of this timeline that we can imagine in our heads. He's the creator of that time. And lastly, he's mukhalif lil hawadith. Every single thing that comes into existence is called a hadith. And it has attributes. It's physical. It's limited. It has a beginning. It has needs. Okay? It exists in a space. Every single thing that comes into existence, we call that a hadith. Something that came into existence. So those core attributes of something that comes into existence, God does not have, the Creator does not have those attributes because He never came into existence. He has existed by definition. Okay. These are 5 attributes which we call as-Sifat al-Salbiyya. And then there is one, Sifatun Nafs, which is existence itself, that He exists. What's the proof that God exists? Okay, is nothing can have power and not exist, right? By indicating or by proving and believing and recognizing that God has power. Clearly He has to exist. Nothing that doesn't exist can have knowledge. So that indicates that He exists. So that's 13 attributes. All of the divine attributes in the Quran and Hadith will be categorized, and there are more than 99 names of God. More. Right? Way more. All of Allah's attributes will fit within one of these 13 qualities or attributes. Okay? And say someone who says Allah exists and we exists, so why do you have issue with the mutashabihats? Is because Allah exists without limbs. Every Muslim has to recognize that when we say Qul huwa Allahu ahad, He exists without limbs. Okay? We must establish that. Without parts. Ahad is one in Himself. Therefore, the Creator does not have limbs. إثبات اليد, okay, بس نفي العضو. خلاص. And then leave the yad as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it means what Allah meant. So إثبات السمع, we do إثبات of the sama, of these mutashabih attributes, the attributes that seem to be the attributes of created beings. We do إثبات of the sama, and we do nafya of the similarity to creation. We negate what is similar to creation. So if you're saying it's limbs, no, we negate that God has limbs, and we affirm what Allah affirmed for Himself in the Quran, but without the concept of limbs. So it must have another meaning besides that. Okay. What does it mean that Allah has 2 right hands? It means that He's constantly giving generously, because the right hand is what you give with, right? He's constantly giving. So we negate that the limbs for the Creator. Every Muslim must negate limbs for the Creator. Every Muslim must negate jism or jasad, a body, for the Creator. Because Allah Himself, when He mocks and derails the, what's the word? The golden calf. And He mocks the golden calf. And He criticizes the Bani Israel for taking another God besides Himself. He adds to the critique of it by saying, عِجْلًا جَسَدًا لَهُ خُوَارٍ, a cow that has a body, that has an echo, which means it's hollow on the inside. That's after all that. And you're going to, now the chief crime is taking a God besides Allah, right? That's the chief crime. But on top of that, you made it worse by taking a stupid God on top of that. A cow, of all things, which humans ride and eat, slaughter and eat, and works in the field and defecates wherever it wants. You took a cow as a God. Number 2, it's a body. You're taking a body as a God. What does it mean it was a body? It means it has limits. It's very limited. It has parts. On top of that, it's not even solid. It has an echo. And that's how it was. They imagined, oh, it's talking to us. Because it hit it and it has an echo to it. So it's hollow on the inside. You're going to take a God that's hollow on the inside. So keep in mind, the chief crime is taking a God other than Allah. And you made it worse. عِجْلًا جَسَدًا لَهُ خُوَارٍ, by the attributes that you took. So Allah Ta'ala is never going to be, can a Muslim believe that the Creator has a jasad, has a body? As Allah Ta'ala there decries it right there. Okay. All right. So here Steve C is asking, if God has knowledge, then does he have a brain? I say God's seeing, God's hearing, God's knowledge does not require organs nor acquisition. So we see because of two things. Because I have an eye and I look. I know things because I have a brain and I acquired knowledge. I read books. That's how we know stuff, right? We listen by having an organ, having an ear, and then engaging in the act of listening. Okay? So if I want to hear a conversation far away, I got the tool, but I have to engage in the act of listening by going over there where the voice can reach me. So these are the two ways in which we listen. And Allah Ta'ala hears all things without these two things. Without an organ and without acquisition. God does not take an action to acquire knowledge. We create stuff by moving our hands. Allah Ta'ala creates things without any of that. Being it is. Okay. That's the answer to these questions. Okay. Interesting question here. What does it mean to say Tabarak Allah? I'm going to read the tafsir on that so I can give you the best answer. When God himself is blessed, what does it mean to say Tabarak about Allah Ta'ala? And it will be essentially, blessed is everything that Allah blesses. But I will get you the exact tafsir here. Okay, from the first time the Tabarak comes in the Quran, I believe is Surah Al-A'raf, but let's get the tafsir here. Okay. Bismillah. Tabarak Allah Rabbul Alameen. تبارك تفاعل من البركة وهي الكثرة والاتساع يقال بورك الشيء وبورك فيه قال ابن عرفة وقال الأزهري تبارك تعالى وتعاظم وارتفع. Here when it applies to God, تبارك means he is most lofty, most high and most noble. In bismihi, and it also means with his name everything else gets blessed or increased. So when Tabarak is applied to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it means he himself is the most great, most noble, most high. Okay. And it also means that he, when his name is upon something, then that thing increases and becomes noble and becomes good. What do we mean by his name is upon something? So meaning I intend to do it for God's sake. So for example, if I'm gonna make food for my neighbors and my friends, then I'm gonna make the intention, I'm gonna do it in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Bismillah. All right. So therefore, that action will be blessed. Allah will help me. And that's one of the meanings of that. Bismihi yutabarraku wa yutayamman. Or yutayam. Is this a typo? I think it's a typo. وَقَدْ مَضَى فِي الْفَاتِحَةِ مَعْنَا رَبُّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Okay, so that's the answer to that question. All right, what else is Steve asking us here? Steve, have you submitted to Allah and His Messenger? If so, tell us so we can... If Allah thinks... No, thinking is for the weak. Thinking implies lack of knowledge. How could God need to know information when He's the creator of all things knowable in the first place? God never thinks. He already knows. Thinking is for those who seek to know something. Thinking is an inferior thing. We think it's great. Oh, you got to think. Yes, it's good for us. It's good for us to think. But thinking is the action of an inferior being who doesn't know. When Allah knows, when God knows, He does not need to think about anything. Okay? That's why at-tafakkur is never the attribute of Allah. Tafakkur, thinking, contemplating. That's an attribute of someone who doesn't know. Okay?
Dr. Shadee,
Speak.
I noticed
Turn
that
his mic on.
I noticed that a lot of people try to find symmetry in God by using our faculties. For example, the thought process or the knowing process.
Mm-hmm.
I've explained it to someone who asked me this in this manner. It's not that when God says I'm all seeing that he has eyes, but I am created with eyes to understand the concept of God being all seeing. When he says that I'm all hearing, it's not that he has the ears, it's that he gifted me with the ears to understand
the concept of hearing. Correct.
Of what all hearing is. So in this
Correct.
case, knowledge, we needed a mind to bank that source of information when he is already the bank with the source of information.
Correct.
Is that like a...
We are the ones who came second. God came first.
Right.
His knowledge, his hearing, his seeing came first. In order for us to have a concept of what knowledge, hearing, and seeing is, because we're creations, he gave us organs to lead to that. The organs are not the default. The lack of the organ is the default, right? The hearing without an organ is the default. Then we can hear, but we need organs.
This might be a controversial thing.
Yeah.
I'd like your thought on it.
It's okay. We got a sword here to execute anyone who speaks
oftentimes
heresy.
in Christian polemics, you'll hear
Yeah.
them say that we were created in God's image, but they often akin our image and God's image as being synonymous.
Yeah.
Therefore, they humanize God. Would it then be fair to say that in Islam, when we have that infamous hadith where it says that God created us in his likeness, it's more talking to the attributes that we understand God in? For example, al-Wadud, the most loving, or al-Basir, the seeing, the hearing. Could it be fair to say that maybe it's not the physical image, but the likeliness of those attributes that we can understand them in?
They did say that in the commentaries of those hadith. They negated what you negated of the bodiliness, of the need, of the organ, but they did establish what you basically said, namely that to understand knowledge, to understand hearing, to understand sight, to understand compassion. They did have that is mentioned in the commentary on that.
Okay.
Yep. Here's a question. Does Allah decide to do things? Does he make decisions? Did he decide to create us? Good question. And the answer to that is that all of Allah's will is in accord with his knowledge, which is a pre-eternal attribute that has always been within himself. And he has willed for those creations to manifest at the time that he willed. So therefore, when the iPad came into existence, there was never a time in history in which God decided, let's create technology. And let me create Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and Elon Musk. No. All of this knowledge is pre-eternally within the essence of God. And in that essence, and in that he decides when it manifests. Pre-eternally. So it has been pre-eternally with God as an attribute established within his essence that in 2007 the iPhone would be created. In 2025 this conversation would happen. So that's what we call al-Qada wal-Qadr. When Allah wills something, or when he has decreed that something will happen, that decree is predestined. It's predetermined. But when it happens and how it happens, he has willed that as well. He has willed that it will take its material form in what we call July 2025. And it will happen through the free will of another human being. He has willed that from time, from pre-eternity. That's how we understand the pre-eternal nation of pre-eternal knowledge of God with the timeline that we're living on. It has umurun yubdiha wa la yabtadiha. The Islamic theology answered this in 3 words. Umurun yubdiha wa la yabtadiha. Right, 3 words. Matters that when we see life happening and events happening in the earth, these are matters he manifests and not initiates. Everything that occurs is within Allah's knowledge pre-eternally as an attribute within himself. And he has, in that knowledge, is when it will manifest in its physical form. أمور يبديها ولا يبتديها. And the method by which it manifests is also in his pre-eternal knowledge, so that he has willed that things humans do occur by their willpower. Right? And that's وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. Very simply answered in one verse of Qur'an. You do not have your own separate will except that Allah willed it. So we have we have our own independent will by God's will. So don't imagine that there's two wills going on. Yes, you have your own will by God's will. Abdul Basit, is Tajsim Kufr Akbar? Of course it is. Yes. To say that Allah has a jasad, you did direct negation of the Quran. I'm saying jasad because that's the Quranic term, but jism by the meaning of jasad. Yeah. God doesn't have emotions, so why does he love? How does he love? So our love is driven by emotions, is driven by adoration, need, things that God doesn't possess. But the love itself, just like hearing, we hear because I need to learn something. I need to know. I hear because I have an organ. I hear because I go to a place where I can hear. Okay. But the method of hearing, what drives hearing, what motivates hearing, is separate from hearing. Likewise, the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does exist, but is free from the needs that we have when we love. All human beings, why do we love? You love something because you need it, or it protects you from a harm, or other things, right? So Allah ta'ala loves without those other emotional drivers. You know that Dr. Salah, who's here, he really doesn't like ilm al-kalam in the public. Very different from Sheikh Saeed Fouda's. I'm convinced by the need for ilm al-kalam without polemicism. It's arf-based. He's in Jordan, so maybe they don't care about that. They don't need that. But I believe that all these questions have to be answered because people are smart and they're thinking critically about these things now. And you cannot say this is not for the public. The whole thing is in the public. The whole world's in the public now. Everything's public. So you have to answer it without polemicism. I think polemicism is from Iblis to divide the ummah up and to just derail you from getting close to God to hating other people who are trying to get close to God too, and maybe they're doing it in a way that you don't think is right. Okay. So the love of Allah Ta'ala is not likewise the anger of Allah. It's His punishment. It's His punishment. Because what anger is not is the boiling over of the heart and the emotion of anger. That does not exist for the Creator. He's transcendent beyond that. How can our free will override Allah's predetermination? Allah already knows what will happen, so how do we have free will? He knows what will happen, and He has created what happens through your own free will. He's given you a free will within His plan, and you will end up doing what He knows already, but you will do it from your own free will. Simple question. You wrote this question with your own free will, or were you forced or compelled? No, you did it from your own free will. Did Imam Ahmad have the same aqeedah as Wahhabis? Of course not. He did not make takfir of other Muslims. He did not make takfir of did he make takfir of al-Harith al-Muhasibi, or he just differed with him? Did he say somebody go and kill Harith al-Muhasibi because of his ideas? Of course not. He had ikhtilaf fiqhi. How do you maintain silatul rahim with people who emotionally, verbally abuse you by just saying Assalamu alaikum on Eid Mubarak. I heard you're sick. May Allah give you shifa. Close the phone. I heard you died. May Allah have mercy upon you. Or I'll be at your funeral. Right? the five huquq, right? The 5 rights, right? I heard you got married. Congratulations. Click. Send them a check. Okay. I heard you're sick. May Allah give you shifa. Click. Your relative died. I'll be at the funeral. You go. Assalamu alaikum. Al-baqa' lillah. Da'watin and go home. The 5 huquq. That's it. And you have the full right to stay away from someone who harms you. And if he harms you in those scenarios, you have a full right to stay away from that. Hey, I heard you're sick. Then you get an earful of abuse. Khalas, you don't call him when he's sick at that time. T is asking a question about location. The answer is no. They denounced that it is with jasad. Why was Abu Bakr the rightful caliph? Because the Muslims agreed upon it. Yeah.
There is this hyperfixation with, lately I noticed that with applying this concept of a body to Allah. I've seen this all over social media.
Yeah.
The hand, the shin, the foot in the Jahannam, Allah's throne. How would we explain when it says literally, لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم? He does not need no sleep nor slumber.
Yeah.
But then someone might say, but then why does he have a throne? How would we?
Very simple rule. The Creator has no body. Just jasad, jism. Therefore, no location, does not rest, does not move around in the creation. Okay? Does not come down, go up, go right, go left. Nor have a right side, nor a left side, nor a top side, nor a bottom. Once you negate the jasad for Allah, it negates all of those things, and it renders the apparent meaning of these things to be not what Allah is intending. He's intending other than the immediate understanding and literal understanding of these meanings, of these words. These are what we call mutashabihat. And Allah told us in the Quran there will be mutashabihat.
Because this is a big talking point on a lot of social media platforms.
Of course it is.
Oh my God, it's major. One of the ones was about the third part of the night being where Allah descends to the lowest heavens in order to see whom of his worshippers. And so you would hear people say, well, what's descending? He says he's descending. Why are you saying he's not descending?
Well, Malik himself said God doesn't descend. Only bodies descend. So there is something, every time there is a piece of information, there's the implications of that. Okay, so once you negate the jasad, you're negating all these other things. It means that his affair descends. Just like Allah Ta'ala says, come to me running, I come to you even faster. Come to me walking, I come to you running. Well, the whole hadith is metaphoric because you don't go to God walking.
Right.
When I say I want to devote my life to Allah, I'm gonna travel the spiritual path. Nobody goes and starts putting granola bars in book bags, right? The human himself is being spoken to be about metaphorically. Majazan. So likewise, for someone to speak that Allah, the response then Allah comes to him running. You come to God walking, God comes to you running. So your walking is metaphorical in this hadith. Majazan, we call it. Therefore, the harwala of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it has a different meaning. Not running, for sure. At-Tanzih, transcendence of God, entails sarful ma'na an dhahirihi, pushing the meaning away from that which relates to a body. Simple as that. Once a person has that foundation, at-Tanzihu sarful ma'na an dhahirihi, to affirm the transcendence of God, to negate what is not befitting to God, is for all of such texts, hadiths and verses, that what Allah does not intend by it is that which entails a body for the Creator. All Muslims agree upon this. Hanbali school, Athari school, where's that hoodie, Alif? Ash'ari school, Maturidi school. And common sense tells you that too. Because Allah says clearly in the Quran, عِجِلًا جَسَدًا لَهُ خُوَارٌ. There is no body for the Creator. Right? So any such attribute, verse or hadith or description that would entail something like that or require something like that, then you know that that is not what God intended. Okay? Look at this. Only thing about this, I would put ethity at the top because that was what came first. Okay? Malik said, by the way, Malik, he wasn't mutakallim. If we define kalam as responding to theological questions. It's in Qadr Iyad. I can get you the exact quotation and what exactly that Malik answered. But Malik was correct when he said, Al-istiwa'u ma'lum. As for istiwa, it's known. So if it's istiwa is known, and don't ask about it and don't discuss it, then why did later Malikis discuss it? It's because who was Malik talking to? Another Arab who understands the Quran. Al-istiwa ma'lum, lak. Istiwa is known to you. You know what it is. Now you have non-Arabs entering the religion. Istiwa is not known to them. Therefore, explanation is needed. That's how we can say the early Imams were correct in their time. And the latter Imams were correct in their time. Malik was talking to a certain person. He knew this person. He knew this environment. And the Arabs and the Muslims of the Arab Muslims were of such a state that they understood meaning. So when he says istiwa is known, that's true. But that is not the truth about later generations. And hence they did discuss these matters. And the first generation, notice the companions are not here. The companions are not either of these. Because the companions didn't delve into these matters at all. They were either busy with doing good works and expanding the ummah, or their people didn't ask these questions. And even with that, right, there are some comments that you could say, no, they did observe Tanzih and they did observe Ta'wil, such as Salama and the Ma'iyya of Allah. Ma'iyya khassa wa Ma'iyya amma. Yeah. How is Allah with the believers and Allah is with the enemies of faith too? Or everybody, I should say. He's with all of you. How? With His knowledge. And what does it mean that Allah is with the believers? With His mercy and His guidance. That's ta'wil. In any event, what I believe in is answering the questions. Okay? Answering the questions without polemics. Without polemics. If your siblings abuse you, can you limit interaction with them with the 5 huquq? Yes, that's not cutting. All right, cutting kinship ties means without a shar'i valid reason. That's what it means. Over worldliness, not abuse. Over a dispute that is of the dunya, not for a shar'i valid reason. If your sibling apostates and becomes a Zionist sympathizer and leaves Islam, that is a shar'i reason to cut him off. If he abuses people and he starts drinking and taking drugs and he's a negative impact on your kids as an uncle, you cut him off. That's a shar'i valid reason so that his harm doesn't reach your relatives and your kids. So when we say don't cut off your family ties, it means without a shar'i reason. And we have to wrap up very soon here, folks. Why didn't Allah allow Adam back into the garden after He forgave him is the final question we'll take today. But today's been great questions. And I have to say, Steve C. put in some good questions. Okay?
I told him to sign up on Arkview to learn more about
Yeah. He's asking here, how does Allah come down to the earth if He can't enter the creation? Okay? Because it is His affair that comes down, His command that comes down, His answering of prayers that come down. It's not the essence of Allah that moves around in His creation. That would literally be hulul. That's pantheism. To say God is in His creation is hulul. The essence of God is not something that moves around. When you say God descends to the lowest heavens, it is the affair, the command of God, the increased answering of prayers. And there's a narration from Malik says a special angel that comes down to take prayers directly. Okay, that wouldn't exist in another one. All right, Abdul Basit, why are you asking this? Is tajsim kufr al-amali or kufr al-muayyan? In our books is kufr. Maybe you have terminology that you're using terminology that are not really used. Maybe it's in other books, but it's kufr. Kufr amali wa muayyan. No, it is. You mean كفر يخرج من الملة أو لا يخرج من الملة؟ نعم يخرج من الملة. أن تقول لله جسد يخرج من الملة. Okay. It removes from the millah. Naba says that's the most dedicated spam I've seen. Yeah, I actually don't mind persistent people. Allah loves the attribute of persistence. الكفر العملي هو الكفر الذي هو كفر أصغر يراد به كل معصية أطلق عليها الشرع اسم الكفر مع بقاء اسم الإيمان على عامله. So this is an ijtihad that you don't necessarily have in our books. Okay, and a division of things that I'm not saying is right or wrong, but it's something that we're not really taught in our books. Okay, this is an act. It is a belief that would remove a person from the millah.
I have a question.
So the way, sorry to interrupt, the way that we understand it is, there is mufassiqa, bid'ah mufassiqa, or bid'ah mukaffira. That's how we differentiate it. Bid'ah mufassiqa or bid'ah mukaffira. And tajsim, to say that God has a jism, has a jasad, in the majority say it is bid'ah mukaffira, put you out of Islam. And some have said it is bid'ah mufassiqa, that it is, you will still be in Islam but you are an innovator. And there's a article and a video from a Habib or a Sheikh Umar al-Khatib of Tarim explaining that. But the majority of the ulama say it is a bid'ah mukaffira, a tajsim as-sarih, explicit tajsim, which you very rarely see any Muslim say. The absolute, direct, clear, and explicit anthropomorphism. Even the people who will speak in manners that could imply that, they don't explicitly say that God has a body. Okay. And nobody says I'm struggling with this porn addiction. Go back and listen to what we said about drying up the stomach and not eating and dry fasting. By the way, today's Thursday. We don't have stream all of next week. I'm in Turkey for the program there. Last question I wanted to answer before Abdul Basit got my attention. Where is the question? Where is the question? Subhanallah, I think I lost it. Yes, thank you. Why did God not allow Adam back into the garden after he forgave him? Let's go back to the first introduction of Adam to the angels, before Adam's spirit or soul had entered into his body. What did Allah say to the angels? He said, Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. I have placed in the earth a representative of mine, meaning someone who will fulfill my will willingly, on his own, and will follow the path of truth and righteousness despite all the tests on his own. Not because he's in heaven and he sees everything. In that case, there's no choice, right? No, on his own, on the earth. So therefore, the answer to your question is that in the first place, Adam was created to be on the earth, not to exist in the heavens. Okay. Yes, in the afterlife, our home is the heaven, is paradise. But in this one, in this world life, our first life, we're meant to be on earth to be tested. So then what was the point of creating him in heaven? Why not create him on earth? Because when you want someone, when you will test someone, then you first must train him, make him know what the answers are, the right answers are, and see if he can handle the test. So therefore Allah created Adam in the heavens so Adam sees the truth, sees the whole truth, sees the angels, speaks to God, sees the promise of God. Although the heavens that he wasn't in wasn't paradise, but it was very close. Perfect heavenly realm. And then to test if he will be able, if he has the qualities needed to succeed. What are the qualities needed to succeed? Humility and repentance. That's it. To see if Adam has the qualities that are needed, the ingredients to succeed. And that's what it was. Essentially, that Adam alayhi salam was destined to forget about the only law that God had, and he ate from the forbidden tree. And Allah tells us why he ate from the forbidden tree. Allah says he forgot. Okay? Only in this Sharia, because Allah knows that Muslims are weak, they're coming at the end of time, there's a lot of rules, that forgetfulness is not sinful for us. If I totally forget to do an obligation or to avoid a prohibition, I'm not forgiven. That's an exception for us. The default is no forgetting. How can you, why should you be forgiven for forgetting when you're in the heavens and you only have one thing to remember, right? You know that meme, you had one job, you have one law, there's one prohibition. So that exception that we have did not exist in the time of Adam because there's no need for it. So when Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, and thank you for Ridwan putting it up, Surah number 20 verse 115, Allah says he forgot. So he explains, why did Adam with his body break the law? Did he break the law? Yes, of course he broke the law. But why? Because he intended to disobey God? How? When he's a prophet? No, he forgot. Let's see how this human being is going to react to disobeying God. He wept and he humbled himself and he blamed himself and he prayed for forgiveness. How did Satan, Iblis, react? He reacted by saying, you are the one who made me commit sins. I'm never going to bow down to him. He reacted with arrogance. Adam reacted with humility and repentance. Then once it was known and known to Adam himself that, and he had tried it and tested his character in the presence of God, now he's able to go and have that same character on the earth and teach other human beings what to do, his children who are not prophets except for Sheath, the 41st child that Adam had, how to be how to repent to God. Steve says, if I forget to become a Muslim, do I still go to paradise? Well, Steve, you now have a lot of knowledge about God. You're asking very good, strong questions. When you now know that we have a messenger from Allah named Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you know this now. We're telling you this now. Now, yes, if you get amnesia, you're forgiven. If you get hit, like the cartoons, and you have amnesia and you forget what happened today, then you're not responsible. But now you know Muhammad is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know that Allah Ta'ala is our creator, that Allah has revealed the Quran, and now the shahada is upon you. And you don't have to take it on the stream, but I mean, no one knows your identity anyway here on the stream if you want to hide your identity. But you must admit to your creator what's true. Those are your dues. You're not joining a club. Joining Islam is not joining a group, a political group or a club. No, you're giving the creator his due. One guy said, I want to become Muslim, but I don't think I'm ready for it. I can't do all the things. It's a big leap. I said, why are you talking about it like that? This is God's due. That you admit that to his existence and that Muhammad is his prophet. It's due. It's no different than when you can't park and say, I'm not feeling paying the meter. You have to pay the meter. You have to have manners, right? With God, you have to have manners. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. I bear witness, God, you are one, and Muhammad is your messenger. Khalas, at least you've given God his bare necessities, like Balu. That's just the bare necessities, okay? And that's it. Khalas, you've given God his number one due. We as humans, we eat and the food digests itself. We get the sun, we're alive here, we're breathing, we're sleeping, we got arms, we got legs. Did you pay anything for this? No. You got it all for free, right? You got it all for free. And Allah Ta'ala made your parents, right? He made your parents care for you and love you. So you got free care taking when you were young. What is the difference, if any, between rejecting the message, knowing it's true, and not being convinced? If you're sincere in seeking the truth, then you'll be convinced. Okay? You will, inshallah, you will be convinced. Convinced of what is there to be convinced of? Oh, so clearly you have a creator. Is there any other messenger out there that's making the claim to be God's creation, messenger? In any event, Steve, may Allah guide us to the truth and yourself to the truth. Jazakumullahu khairan. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Kalbe şifa ver Allah.